Even though the Danish film Rose came out in Europe in late 2022, it's just now making its way across the pond to American theaters. This is most likely going to be playing at your local art house cinema, but should you make the effort to see it? Sisters Inger and Ellen are on a group trip to Paris when Inger announces her struggles with mental health to the traveling group. And upon arrival in Paris, it soon becomes clear that Inger has a hidden agenda concerning a figure from her past, ultimately involving the entire group in her hunt for answers. So, this emotional drama will probably feel familiar in the plot, where a family has a member with emotional distress during a vacation, and then that creates stress and even anger as the trip threatens to be ruined by behaviors. The familiarity of the story wasn't an issue for me because of the presentation and then the charisma of the actors. This stars Sophie Grabel and Lena Maria Christensen as Inger and Ellen, respectively. Now, their dynamic comes across as natural and believable, even if small portions of conflict seem to be viewed through rose colored glasses to resolve the issues quickly and simply. And please forgive that pun. Now, Inger is the sister with the mental illness, and she doesn't play the part in a way that appears to take the condition lightly or sarcastically. There's a lot of warmth and compassion Inger displays, even amidst opposition by characters who feel inconvenienced or maybe embarrassed by her actions. And this ends up creating a heartwarming persona, who, even if she is acting up or creating a scene, she's still very likable and someone who deserves compassion. Now, something I appreciate about a lot of non English movies is how the story isn't afraid to let a scene play out with either silence or maybe music, but certainly without dialogue. And it creates an enveloping atmosphere where we can focus just on the beauty of a shot, or maybe to allow the actions of the characters to speak for them instead of using words. Now, there are a few of these in the movie. One in particular, it takes place in a museum where we watch Inger and a young boy explore the rooms. There's this carefree and joyous expression that's captured. And what's even better is the empathy and the compassion that's showcased on the boy's face. I mean, it's a touching scene, and it didn't require any words. Throughout the story, we get to witness a lot of predictable scenarios where Inger either creates inconveniences for her fellow travelers or builds up conflict with her sister. But to balance these moments out, some scenes are meant to subvert our expectations and then create surprises within Inger's personality. I think these come about in obvious ways, but that didn't detract from the enjoyment. Now, there's one relationship within the narrative that didn't turn out the way that I had hoped, or at least the character that I was hoping to display growth didn't really accomplish it. There's a member of the vacation group that's very hostile and antagonistic towards Inger, and at one point in the film, there's a line of dialogue that showcases how the two characters are more alike than that one wants to admit. And even after being shown how wonderful of a heart Inger has and how she can be a very selfless person, even amidst some selfish acts, this character remains static. Growth opportunities, even small, they're present but not taken. And I know this isn't a fairy tale, so it's not detrimental that growth isn't shown for this guy, but it would have been nice to see, especially when all of those in contact with Inger witness the truth of her heart, even when she's struggling with emotions or actions. Now, something I wasn't expecting from this was the amount of natural humor that was present. Jokes aren't set up, but instead, the actors take advantage of situations to subtly point out funny moments, or just make witty quips that feel natural within a conversation. And then, when these are coupled with looks and expressions that just perfectly convey the emotion, I chuckled multiple times throughout. The story balanced the drama and the sad moments with light levity that never felt cheap or forced. And because this is a drama, the pacing is steady and on the slower side, but it didn't drag. There are enough adventures and complications that the characters encounter to keep the narrative from dipping down to where it becomes boring or unbearably slow. And because there is a central point that Inger is trying to reach, that pursuit's engaging, especially as she encounters obstacles that are typically of her own doing. So even though this is predictable and obvious in so many of its arcs, the way the characters are brought to life and the humanity that's on display makes for a touching and enjoyable watch. I was drawn to Inger, not because she was a spectacle and something to be gawked at, but instead because she's portrayed as fragile and flawed with incredible insight into others and a personality that's overflowing with value and love. Because of the conflict she encounters, whether she causes it or not, these create sequences that open opportunities for characters to experience meaningful and stirring change. Not all take advantage, but the dynamics are rich, with palpable emotion that runs the gamut from devastation to elation. Sophie Grabel as Inger absolutely delivers an excellent performance, giving Inger layers and layers of complexities that surprise and endear, and sometimes frustrate. And as I said at the beginning, this will probably feel like a familiar story, but the performances and emotions are refreshing and captivating. There's no sex, some nudity, a lot of profanity, and some violence. I give Rose 4 out of 5 couches. So, have you seen any feel good movies lately that you could recommend to me? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.